Continuation of my uncle's eulogy, I'm trying to talk about his memory, was that what was I gonna say? Yeah, so in Russian culture, they like to drink a lot, vodka, especially because of the freezing winters. So having alcohol makes you warm inside, you know? And also, like, the non-Jewish population, they would, like, make their money and spend it straight away. And they gain, like, honey, come here. Razri, come here. Come here, baby. Come here, honey. Come here, baby. Anyway, so let's say hi to Uncle Danny. Hello, Uncle Danny. We love you. We're gonna miss you. Anyway, what was I saying? Yeah, so they would make money and then they would spend all their money in a day. So they never had money. They were all like dirt poor. They never saved anything. But the Jewish population, like Jewish culture, is work hard, save your money. So there's a lot of anti-Semitism because of that. Because the Jews were much smarter, you know, and they would save their money. So they were never like starving. So they didn't just drink all day. And so, yeah, so that's another thing about that. So how does this tie into my story? This ties into my story because basically they lived in my great uncle lived in an apartment complex, and down the hall from him was a Russian policeman, and he was a drunken guy, and he would get into fights and beat people up, and especially his wife, Tasia. And he would always hear her screaming and crying, and he would beat her up, and then he'd see her running out of the house because he was all drunk, so he would come home drunk and beat her up. And one day he let her in. He saw her running out, so he let her stay in. He let her come in the house to stay for safety. And he went to the husband, who was a police officer. Everyone was afraid of him because he was a police officer. And police officers in Russia had a lot of power. They can get you into trouble, send you to Siberia. It's not like in America where you just like, you have like justice, you know? It's more like a mafia kind of thing. So my great uncle, he didn't care. You know, that's the kind of person he was. Like, he saw that she was beaten up by her husband. So he went to her house and he punched the guy in the nose like really hard. And he said, leave her alone, stop it, you know. And he took a chance because he could have gotten into trouble, but for some reason the police officer didn't get him into trouble. And from that day on, Tasia, I think she divorced her husband. And like my I don't know what the situation was like in Russia back then, in Ukraine, because I don't know how she got into his house, you know. I don't know, didn't he lock his door when he walked out to work? But every time he'd come home from work, there was like a meal cooked for him, and the house was clean, and everything was put in order. And every day he came home, and he would tell her, go back to your husband. He would say, you're married, go back to your husband. But she didn't want to, and it was like very consistent. Like, she really found something in my uncle, and finally she divorced her husband and she married my uncle. But the thing was that she wasn't Jewish, and according to Jewish law, you know, you can't really, how do you say? According to Jewish law, you can't really have, a non-Jewish wife. So all the years, you know, he was with her, but they weren't really married in the Jewish way. But she always liked the Jewish way. Like, she would make sure that the house was like, even though like in Russia, the Jewish people didn't really know anything about Judaism because Ukraine became like part of the USSR. It was part of the USSR and communism, so no religion was allowed. But like, they knew basics, like from their grandparents, like, oh, keeping meat and milk separate, you know. So she would keep all the dishes separate, and she would only buy like kosher food, nothing like, no shrimp, none of that stuff, you know what I'm saying? So like, she was really dedicated to him, and she really loved him, and they were together for many years. And like about 15 years ago. 10, 15, yeah. 10, 12, 13 years ago. Um, his wife Tasia, she was very stubborn. She wanted to become Jewish because basically, according to Jewish law, she's not Jewish, so she can't be buried in a Jewish cemetery. And she wanted to be buried next to my uncle, you know. And all along, she's been following the Jewish rituals, you know. So she felt for it, you know, and being part of like our family. So I mean, I feel bad personally because I never really talked to her because it was kind of awkward, you know. I don't know, me being a child, not child, but even into adulthood, it was kind of like I don't know Russian, and I'm like socially awkward. So it's like, yeah, it was a little bit weird, strange situationship. Anyway, so she was a very nice lady, very sweet, very serious, and basically she put her foot down. She said, I want to be buried next to you and I want to become a Jewish person. And she became Jewish. She converted Orthodox Judaism. And on the day that they became Jewish, they had a Jewish wedding and like we had a party for them. So that was like really nice. And like my cousin cooked chicken, homemade chicken. And that's like the best chicken I ever tasted in my life for some reason. My cousin Miriam. And it was a nice celebration. And then um then the thing is to happen was that her name became Miriam. Her name was always Tasia, but her name became Miriam. And um basically my uncle, my father's brother, he got sick and then he passed away like 8 years ago. I don't know how long ago it was. And yeah, around 8 years ago. And my great uncle my uncle Danny was very close with him. And once my uncle died, he like everything went downhill health wise for him. Then his wife Tasia died like last year, and then now he just passed last night, and they had the funeral today. So I wanted to also share a memory of when I went back for my little sister's wedding. I went back to New York and for my little sister's wedding, and I don't know what it was. Maybe he felt like he would never see me again. You know, it was like very emotional for me. Like when he came to the wedding and he went around the chuppah, the marriage canopy, like with my sister, and he was like very serious, and he was like he grew out his beard, and then we had to get to the hall, to the wedding hall after the marriage ceremony, and I went with him. Like I was helping him into the car, and we were trying to communicate about cats. I was trying to tell him that I have cats, and I don't remember what I was trying to tell him. Like he was trying to tell me, we're trying to communicate, but it was like clumsy communication. We didn't know, but he was telling me he loves me, and he gave me a kiss, and he was holding my hands, and he didn't want to let go, and he's saying, "Ich live there," like I love you, and I felt unconditionally loved. You know, I felt from him like something kind of otherworldly, like holy, and feeling that unconditional love, you know, from my great uncle. And we were just the whole drive there, we were just holding hands. He was just holding my hands. I love you. How are you? You're in Israel. Oh, I love you. You know, and I felt very at that moment like accepted and unconditionally loved, you know. So that memory stays with me, and you know, his memory should be for a blessing. And they buried him today, and my father gave like they posted on the WhatsApp chat for so we can see the funeral, you know, because I'm not there, my sister's not there, and so my father gave a little speech at the funeral, and I saw my cousin. They were like shoveling in after they put him in the ground, they were like shoveling in the earth back onto his coffin. And I guess that's like one of the few times when you feel like how much love he had for my family and for like our family, the cousins, everyone, and how I felt the unconditional love from him for me. And yeah, so seeing him yesterday, like in the hospital on the bed, like seeing him there just unconscious and helpless, just out, like apparently he had a heart attack last week, and he has an aide, so the aide called the ambulance, blah blah blah, and then they took him to the hospital, and it went downhill from there, and then he went unconscious, and that was that. My family went to his bedside, and I think they did vidui, which is like the confessions, because he was unconscious, so they read it for him, and they did like the Shema, like before a person dies. And now I saw the pictures of his funeral. I can share with you pictures of my great uncle and the funeral, and so that's a story about my great uncle. And he was 94. He was a very strong man, even in his 80s, his late 80s. It was only recently where his health went down, like when my uncle died, my other uncle died, Uncle Mordechai. So that broke him, like that really broke him. And yeah, so let me show you pictures of his funeral. I don't know if you'll be able to see. Let me do this. I rotate left, rotate right. Here's all the people. Here's his casket. See the wooden casket there? That's my little nephew. My little nephew there. That's his wooden casket. And let's see what's next. This is them burying him, like digging the grave, I guess. See all the people there? My cousin walking to the funeral site in the graveyard. And this was him. This was him. And with all the family around him before he died at like a Purim party. Like I feel guilty not visiting more often my family, and I should, right? To think like all the history that went down with him, like is another generation gone, and to think like the future generations seem hopeless, in this day and age. Like I feel like it's the end of humanity, being honest. Yeah, that was him. I don't know if you can see him. And his wife, I can show you his wife Tasya, where the story was with Tasya. Let's find pictures. This is he was at my sister's wedding. He was so proud. He was so proud. Look. That's him. And that's my father. And he's hugging my sister. you can see him talking to my sister. I don't know why it's not focusing well. I don't know, I can't with the lights. Maybe you can see better now. It's not focusing. It's him talking to my sister. It's my father. And it's him. He's a very serious guy, you know? And let's see Tasya. Let's see his wife Tasya. This is him. He looks more Russian here. That's him, Uncle Danny. And his wife right here, Tasya. And my cousin Miriam. She's so pretty. It's Tasya. This is my family with him. Yeah. Really or funny. I don't know if you can see him. Yeah. I guess like I wasn't able to eat so much today because like I lost my appetite, you know? I guess that's what like grief can do to someone. Yeah, it was Tasya. And she's a very cute lady. Domestic violence happens everywhere, you know? Her ex-husband in Russia really was very violent, you know? And my great uncle Danny punched his nose. Yeah, so this is when he was still okay, see? He's with all the family. It was before his wife died. Oh, God. Oh, I never saw this picture. He was holding the Torah. He was holding the Torah. This is the Torah. He was holding it. That's him when he was a bit younger. Yeah. That's him at the hospital. I don't think I should show you the picture of him at the hospital. It's just... Yeah. As soon as I saw him, I was like, oh, okay. He's on his way out, you know? There's nothing you can do. That's life, you know? That's life. People die. Then you move on. You know? I'm gonna get a few pictures of my family, like, printed to put on my wall, you know? Yeah. So, that's that for now. Thanks for watching.